Greetings, my beloved Black people. Welcome to the plight and struggle of Black people in America. As you know, on Sundays, we have our Prominent Black People series, and the guests are always special. And once again, we have a special guest, and she's bringing something special to the show. Apparently, she's a show creator herself, because she's going to do a 3-week series of very important and informative information that we definitely need in our community. And today is going to be on a topic, subject, issue that's definitely dear to our guest's heart today. And without further delay, I'll bring our guest, Ms. Jacqueline L. Shaw.
Hello.
Hey, hello, Miss Shaw. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing? Happy Sunday to you.
Oh, thank you. Every day is a happy day, I say.
True.
Yeah, I like Sundays.
Me too.
Yeah. So how are you feeling today?
I am feeling great.
Okay. No complaints?
No complaints. I've had a busy weekend, so and it continues with this being the 4th of July weekend.
Okay.
So it's a blessing.
Oh, wait, that's what I was thinking when I said that every day, because I have this concept: every day above ground is a good day.
Amen. Amen. As they say in church, when you meet people in church, they say, well, it's best to it's good to see you, and they say, well, best to be seen than to be viewed. So
Oh, you ain't kidding.
that's what I'm a country girl. That's what the elders used to say when I was young.
Right.
So, but now that I'm older, I understand what it means.
Oh yeah, we all do now, right?
Right.
Yeah, this life is interesting, but I'm grateful for it for sure.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I am grateful. I am grateful every single day, especially with what I'm getting ready to share with you about, be the match and in trying to educate African Americans on how important it is for us to be donors for stem cell.
Now that's so interesting, because I've heard this word STEM before, and then recently I'm hearing STEM in another aspect that I actually thought that every STEM was connected to. And so it's really the STEM you're referring to, the stem cell.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
so what exactly is a stem cell?
Well, actually, it's bone marrow. So what we would always say before is bone marrow. Someone needs a bone marrow transplant. So what it is really it's the blood cells is that you're transferring from a donor to a patient. So and it could be for many different reasons, the different sicknesses.
Okay.
That and it's a lot of different, like sickle cell. Sickle cell is a whole different a whole different avenue than stem cell. I mean, it's the same, but for our statistics, and with stem cell, you can find a donor, anywhere in the world, whether it's black, white. With the other, it has to be a African American
For sickle cell.
For sickle cell. So you have to be matched with a African American in order for them to even consider doing it for you, because the patient's body, if it's not a match, the patient's body will fight it off. So it will spend more time fighting off the donors, which is called graft versus hostess. So it would fight off the hosting body, which is the donor, which is the patient, would fight off the grafts that is the donor stem cells.
Even though you simplified it, it's still over my head. Some areas I'm just not astute at, and medical usually is one of them.
Well, if I can just go back in a little bit and tell you my situation of how I got into it, because I'm not I'm not an expert on it.
Okay.
But just going back just a little bit, in 2015, I received a phone call. I have three beautiful daughters. My middle daughter was in school at Midwestern State in Wichita Falls. So received a phone call from her phone at midnight thinking, and after working, it's a Friday night, and after working a long week, I'm like, the nerve of her calling me, because I'm thinking, she's partying, she's at college, and I answer the phone, and it is her college roommate.
Mm.
And she says, Mrs. Shaw, Amber is sick. She's had a headache, and she's been vomiting all day. And I remember a doctor friend of mine's telling me, anytime you have a pounding headache and you're vomiting for a long period of time, you need to get to the emergency room because something is wrong with the brain.
Mm.
So that's a note to anyone. If you
Absolutely.
are having a headache continuously, a migraine, and you're vomiting just nonstop, get to the emergency room and get yourself checked out. So with this, I asked the young lady to please get my daughter to the emergency room, which she did. Once I drove to Wichita Falls, which was the longest 2-hour drive that I have ever driven in my life, praying, Lord, let my baby, be okay.
Right.
And then when I get there, they're admitting my daughter, and we're in a dark room, and they won't let us go back and see except for one at a time. And she's in this dark room. So she said, I feel better. And she was dehydrated, so they were giving her IV. So I didn't really get to see my daughter. And then they told me after being there, they said, we're going to go ahead and admit her so we can, find out what's wrong with her. And as we are leaving the room and they are pushing her in her bed to another location of the hospital out of the ER, I looked at my daughter for the first time, and she is, she's always been a very beautiful, caramel skin young lady with a beautiful, bright smile. And at this time, my child is in a fetal position, and she is just like clammy, a gray color. I have no idea, what's wrong with her. And as they get her in a room, and a doctor comes in, and she's African American, and she's my age. And she was talking with us, asking my daughter how long she had been sick, and just trying to figure out, what could be the problem. And this nurse walks in, and she says, and she looks at this with this piece of paper, and she looks at the piece of paper, and she said, that can't be right. Run it again. Mm-hmm. And the nurse walked out, and the doctor continues to, ask questions. And the nurse came back in about 10 minutes later, and same nurse gave the doctor the piece of paper, and she says, that can't be right. Run it again. And so nurse left out, and we continued to talk. And my daughter had been sick for a while, and I had scheduled her appointment with our doctor. This was in November, right before college was out for the semester. And I had scheduled her an appointment to get different tests to find out what was wrong with her, because she had been, really tired. And I thought she has bad allergies. With her being on the Texas-Oklahoma border, it was her allergies. And so the nurse came in 10 minutes later, and the doctor handed her a piece of paper. She said, well, it has to be right. We've ran it 3 times. Mm-hmm. And so she proceeded to tell us, to tell me that our hemoglobin is anywhere between a 11 and a 12. And my daughter's was at a 3. Mm. And she said, it's a miracle that she's alive right now. And she said, if it was you or I, we wouldn't have made it. She said, I guess because she's so young. She said, but I'll tell you this much, is that if you didn't get her in here when you did, the sun wouldn't have come up on her this morning. Mm. And at this time, it's like I had been kicked in the stomach, and I'm leaning against the wall and holding my stomach and looking down at the ground and trying to process, what the doctor is saying to me,
Mm-hmm.
and in disbelief, like, can't believe this is happening, to me and to my daughter. And I remember, as she said, if you didn't get her here when you did, the sun wouldn't have came up on her this morning. As I'm looking down at the ground, at the floor, there's a glow that comes over the floor, and I look up to see where the glow is coming from, and it's the window. The sun is coming up,
Mm.
and I'm like, asking God, help me. I don't have the words to say. And I look over at my daughter, and she sees the sun is coming up as well. And
Mm-hmm.
she sits up in her bed and she's looking at me without saying a word, with tears in her eyes, like, Mom, give me life.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no words to say, but as a mother, I knew I had to give my child life. And at this point, as I said, she's gray, her lips are as white as snow.
Mm.
And I just remember saying, God, help me. And at that moment, I felt his hand lift me up off the wall. And I heard his voice say, be still and know that I am God.
Mm.
And I stood up and I told the doctor, I said, no, this is not a miracle that she's okay. This is God telling me that my baby is going to be okay. And he is going to have us on a pedestal, telling the world how good he is
Mm.
for me. And he's going to have us doing things that we cannot even imagine. And so,
Right.
Mr. Gray, listen, I'm right here on your show telling the world how good God is.
That's great.
After after all these tests of them testing my daughter, it came to that finally see that she needed a stem cell transplant. So she was diagnosed as plastic anemia, where her white blood cells were not reproducing.
Okay.
And so the next thing, as they continued to give her blood to keep her blood levels up, this was in Wichita Falls, they let me drive her home to Baylor, Scottish Rite.
Mm-hmm.
I got her to Baylor, had an excellent doctor, Dr. Berryman, and they tested both of my daughters, my youngest and my oldest, and my oldest was 100% match.
Mm-hmm.
So it was such a it was such a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a blessing, and I mean, in the whole thing, I was at such a peace because I know God was in charge, and there was nothing I can, no worrying or whatever. It didn't even matter. And so I knew when I said that in her room that, well, to fast forward, this was in November of 2015. My
Mm-hmm.
daughter had her transplant in January of 2016. Usually patients stay in the hospital for 3 months after um, the transplant because of the graft versus hostess, because the
Right.
body
Right.
will fight off. But with my daughter being 100% matched, we didn't have an issue. In 2 days, they came and they said, you know what? She's holding on to her sister's stem cells. So we're going to let her go home, but we're going to need you to bring her back every day just so we can check it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, after being in the hospital so long, we were very happy about that. And
Mm-hmm.
I took her home and brought her back the next day. They said, she's doing so good. Let's do every other day. So
Okay.
went to every other day, went to once a week, went to once a month. And I mean, God is just so good. God
You're
is
right. You're right.
so good. And I am so grateful. I
Mm-hmm.
just I just thank him every single day. So every little thing is a blessing in our household. And this was, like I said, 2015, 2016 she had. Now we're in 2023 and she goes
Mm-hmm.
back once a year to be
Okay.
tested. So God is good. But it wasn't until 2021 that I realized, my youngest daughter and I saw a segment for a little girl named Ruby, and she was 10 years old and she needed a a stem cell transplant, and she had been hospitalized 8 times for long periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during pandemic, and my daughter and I said, well, let's go down. And they were doing a drive-through down in Dallas at the American Airline parking lot. So we drove down there and we were like, okay, let's go see if we can save little Ruby. Let's go see if we can be a donor. And, we were very excited about it. And so the the lady, she did all the paperwork for my daughter. And then I said, well, what about me? I
Mm-hmm.
said, I want to do my paperwork. And she said, oh, sweetie, you've aged out. And all I heard was I was old. What do you mean I'm old? And she said, no, the age limit is for donors is 18 to 40. And I was like, oh, well, why is that? And you mean I can't? And I was heartbroken that I couldn't be, one of the statistics that could actually help little Ruby. So, and then for her to tell us about, the different statistics of how important it is to be a donor. And, for African Americans, we have a 29% chance to find a donor on the National Donor Bank. And for whites, it's 79% of a chance. So that was my thing is, God was saying to me, this is where I need you at. This is where I need you to go in and educate our people to say, and our African American and our people of color, of how important it is to be a stem cell donor, and to educate if 18 to 40, because if it didn't happen to my family, I wouldn't know anything about what I'm here to share with you and with the public right now.
That low percentage of possibility for a Black person to find a donor versus Caucasian, is that because of the lower number of population of us? Is that the reason for that?
The population of us being a donor. So of us being a donor.
Okay, our donors have to come from us. The people have to have Black donors.
No, well, no, not for stem cell. It depends on all the other races, because as you know, you have so many, biracial. So
right. So I'm trying to understand, why is it just 29% chance of a Black person to find a donor versus 79% chance? Then I say, well, maybe it's numerical, because it's like just we're 13% of the population. They're a higher percent of the population. So that's why I thought maybe it's because of the color thing.
Well, it's not that. It's that we don't have African Americans to sign up to be a donor to be in the National Stem Cell Bank. So you can't pull for something that you don't have.
Right, but you say we can use anybody's. It doesn't have to come from Blacks. So I'm trying to see, why is that 29% so low?
Well, it depends on it depends on it doesn't matter the color if you are 100% match.
Right. So I'm trying to see, why does that make the percentage so low if it doesn't matter what color the people are? That's my thought process.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a scientist, so I can't.
Okay, I get you. But yeah, I'm not either.
But but again, sickle cell, that is a Black African American trait.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So whether that is or not, we need donors. We need African Americans to be donors.
Yeah. Right. So what about this? I know one time you said something about the process of seeing if you're a match, and that's supposed to be a really simple process. How simple is that?
That is a truly simple process. If you at a health fair and there is a stem cell table set up, like if you come out to see me at one of the events that I am at, you would just do with your smartphone. You would just scan this QR code here. So it's just a little regular mail
barcode.
Yeah, barcode. All the information will come up and you will fill it out if you have any illnesses, any medications. And then when you open up you'll have this little package that has the swabs in it. It has two swabs in
Okay.
it. And so you just take one swab and swab between your cheek and the gum for 10 seconds on one side. And then you take it off and you place it here. And then you do the other cheek with the other swab for 10 seconds and you place it here. We seal it up, whether you, and then we mail it off to the lab. So that's just as simple as it gets. If
That
people
is
want,
simple.
yeah, if people want to go to bethematch.org and just have one of these mailed to their homes, they can do it themselves. It'll walk you through it. Same process. Scan the QR code, fill out the information, do the swab, place it back in here. Postage is already paid. They
Okay.
just send it into the lab. So it
So-
is that simple.
So basically, it looks like we have to make an adjustment on our mindset in this medical world situation that we can enhance and make better. Is what it
Right,
seems like
right.
is going on.
Right. And it is a simple process. When you do get the phone call, it says, it's a simple process. It depends on or what the illness of the patient is. They will either, if it's a child, then they will take from your hip bone, and that is a outpatient procedure where you will go in, you will go under, and they will take it. They will take the marrow from your hip bone.
Okay.
When my daughter did it, since she was an athlete and she didn't want to work out for 3 days because she was a little sore. But other than that,
Okay.
she was in the hospital just for she went in at 6 a.m. They did the procedure and then they kept her in in recovery for an hour to 2 hours just to make sure she was okay. And then they released her. So, and then some, it depends on, there's two ways to give. And the other way is to give is like through when you're going to give blood for Red Cross. When you're doing blood for Red Cross, they will take it from there. So you can be on your laptop still doing your work and, doing all that good stuff in it. And then when you're done, you'll just go on your way. It's just like giving blood.
Okay. Well, that makes it simple. And I know a lot of people have different thoughts. And I would think some people think, I don't know about for a stranger, but it could be a family member or anybody. And then I know you said something about children. So as long as it's that age range, what was that range where a person qualifies to donate again?
It is 18 to 40.
18 to 40. Okay.
Yeah, 18 to 40. Now, if people have done it when they were in their 40s or in between, they will stay on the national bank until they're 55 before they take them off.
So that means they'll serve them up to 55, even though the number is 40, what it sounds like?
Yes.
That's a great, is it a grandfather clause or grace period or whatever it is? That's a pretty big one.
Yeah. Not unless you call them and say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And, just go ahead and take me off. But for age rooms, they look for the 18 to 40 because,
Right.
the younger you are, the more healthier you are.
In most cases.
In most cases. So when you get a certain age, you kind of start taking medication and, all that.
Yeah,
kind of
that's all.
So, it goes with age, but it's, but if someone will decide to be a donor, they will be a blessing to help save someone's life. And that's why I got into becoming a advocate for Be the Match, so that I can have another family to share my testimony, be able to share the same testimony as I'm able to share today.
Right. Because it worked out perfectly. And certain things that happened, like you said, the doctor said that had she not been there so soon that she wouldn't have seen the sun come up. So all the actions in between were significant to the success of the situation. Her
Oh
friend
yeah.
calling you, you knowing to tell her to get her to the emergency, all those were factors. And surely your faith is strong, I'm sure.
My honey, my faith was so strong. You know what, you know what, I had
Hmm.
with my family. We had been through it. We had been through it, and you know, when people tell you when you're going through something and you feel like you're not going to go on, and people will tell you uh, that saying, "Well, sometimes God take you through things to help someone else," but when you're
Hmm.
going through it, you don't want to hear that.
You sure don't. I can imagine you wouldn't, because it's like, wait a minute.
You're
But
like, wait a minute, what you mean I'm going through this so I can teach? I'm not a teacher,
yeah, it made
but
me think of cliches. Cliches, they're good intentions, but some of them don't even make sense.
yeah, it does not make sense. But
Right.
now that I'm on the other side,
Yes.
uh, I do want to be a voice for our people, for
Right.
our people of color, and all people. I mean, we have people that are dying every day because they cannot find a match.
Right. That's sad.
Children, adults. A friend of mine's had a frat brother that was looking for a donor for 2 years, and he did not make it.
Mm.
He did not make it, and so I have um, been blessed to be able to say to people, if you will let me come to your event, as in set up to be the match table,
Hmm.
I will sign up as many people or tell my testimony. So I was really blessed to be able to go to the event last weekend for the men's expo over in Dallas, where
Oh
where I
yes.
met you, Miss Barbara Edwards said, "Come on,"
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, and she is such a blessing for all that she is doing. I'm very grateful
Yeah.
for her doing that and opening up the door for so many people and organizations to come in and to be able to serve our people in
See,
the Black community, because we don't know. I mean, they don't. I
people.
mean, people in general don't know if you don't tell them.
Absolutely, and the people can perish for a lack of knowledge, no doubt.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm not a doctor, so if you're having some kind of symptoms or illness, please go see your physician and let them find out. Let them do the test and tell you, what you need to do. Whether it's eating better, exercising, whatever the
Right.
case may
Right.
be.
Right.
We want our loved ones to live a long, long life.
Especially when it can be helped along to do so. I
It's
mean, you're not a doctor, and I'm not either. But I think we're humanitarians, and a doctor should have that type of heart.
right, right.
Yeah.
And I have to say, with me being a Christian and believing, every time we would go to the hospital, every time I would take my daughter back to the hospital, they would say, "It's a miracle," and I would say, "No, it's not. It's God. This is God. What you talking about? This is a miracle." And so after a while, they finally started saying, and they said, "It's a." And her doctor called herself and said, "It's God. It is God." I said, "Yes, it is. Give him his perks." I said, but the power of prayer and praying over the doctors and before they did the surgery. Well, it wasn't a surgery on my daughter, and let me just say that too.
Hmm.
When my daughter received my um, oldest daughter's stem cell, they give it to them like giving blood.
Okay.
So that, I mean, it's just that simple for the patient to get. they give it to them like giving blood.
So that's the receiver of the
That's the receiver.
right.
So,
Oh, so
you
that's
think,
a
oh, it's
great
going to
thing.
be an operation or this and that. They do give them a round of chemo to kill off their, their stem cells, so that they can take on the donor's stem cell.
Okay. That's a big, interesting piece of information. I'm sure
Yes.
the receiver will be comforted to know that it's not painful or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
it is not. It's just, yeah, it's
it's definitely a blessing, miracle. And I'm
is.
wondering,
This is. I am getting emotional sitting here
it's
thinking about it.
okay, but I'm wondering if people say it's a miracle all those times, because I know me personally, I thought it was understood that miracles come from God. So that's why I was
Well,
trying to understand the separation. I've never heard it like that, to be separated, because I'm thinking they're thinking that's where miracles come from. That was my understanding.
yeah, well, that's true too. But when you're in the medical field,
Mhm.
they can't talk religion with you.
Right, I
So
can imagine.
just like the African American doctor, when she kept saying it's a miracle, and
Mhm.
I said it is not a miracle. This is God.
Right,
And
right.
once I said that, because I know she's African American, so I know she believes in the God that I believe in. And she was a country girl too, so I know where she came from. And so she said, "You're right. This is all God." She said, "But until you said that, there's nothing that I could say."
Mm. It's some kind of code of ethics, I'm sure.
Right,
Hmm.
right.
Yeah. It's
So
interesting, though. It's very interesting.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. But God does work miracles. But I wanted them to know.
You want to make sure where the glory is going,
Yeah,
huh?
I want to make sure it wasn't a dog. I mean, look, y'all did some tests, but this is God. This, you
Hmm.
can't take anything away from my heavenly Father, because I
I
know where
feel.
my blessings come from.
I
So
feel
it
you
was a
on that.
miracle, but it was a
Yeah.
miracle through God. But as I said, you can't take that away from Him. So I'm
You're
like,
not
look,
gonna let them.
I
That's for sure.
I I'm like, no, don't come in there with that. But even
Uh,
her doctor, Dr. Berryman, he was from Oklahoma,
okay.
and that hold conversations on things like that, and just our upbringing. He was about my age as well, our similar upbringing and everything, and he was Catholic,
Okay. Hmm.
but I told him the Baptist ways.
Yeah, and at that moment, you the boss. So hey, what
I
you
like,
say
yeah.
goes.
And he was like, you know what you say? Anytime he would say something to the daughter, he would look over. He would look over me. See, he said, "Yeah, I felt God. I feel God watching over me." I said, "Okay." I said, "I hear you."
Yeah. See
So,
it.
it's really a blessing, and
Yeah.
I pray that people will go to bethematch.org
Hmm.
and just do their smartphone. If you want to read more about it, the statistics,
Hmm.
how the procedure is done, anything about stem cell, they can go to bethematch.org and read up on it a little bit more. And if they want to be a donor, they can fill out the information right then and there. As I said, a kit will be mailed to their home if they choose to do that,
Right.
and the postage is done and put in there. Also, if they decide to be a stem cell, um, if they are a if they get the call to
Hmm.
be a donor, it depends on the um, where the person is at. So you can be, I mean, there's two different ways they can do it. They can either fly you out to where the patient is,
Hmm.
whether it's, say it's in New York. They can fly you out there and do everything there, and it's no cost to you as the
Hmm.
donor. You can also, they will also tell you a facility to go to, and do the procedures. If you're in Dallas, they will tell you where to go in Dallas to do the procedure, and they will flight the stem cell to New York.
Right. To the person.
So the donor is out of no money at all.
Right.
It costs
Right.
nothing. It
Mm.
costs nothing but the joy that to know that you saved a life.
That would
So
be great.
it's all about matching for life.
And that was a great organization, a great concept and mindset.
Right.
So, yeah. But I noticed through a lot of different avenues, we're getting more knowledgeable. I'm talking about right now, Black people collectively, and we're coming together. I know this pandemic was quite an event for most of us, and
Hmm.
it has some downfalls, unfortunately. And I've seen some things with it was like a blessing in disguise as well. So it's just things come at us in life, and we're gonna have to deal with it. And if we can come out of it better than we went into it, that would be great. And so
Yes.
it's nice
Yes.
to hear your story was a happy one in the end. I'm
It,
sure you had some moments that, wow, your heart was different places, but I'm happy to see that smile on your whole body right now.
yes. You know what? I am so blessed. My daughter, she turned 21 in the hospital. So in the hospital, actually, we she had been 3 days of a light chemo, so her hair was starting to come out in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
So on her birthday, we actually shaved her head. And so she was brave and she didn't cry, but
Mm-hmm.
her sisters did.
Okay. What about her mama?
Well, you know what? I did, I was emotional,
Okay.
but as a mother, you have to be strong for your children.
Certain moments, yes, you do.
And so it was God. It was not me.
I
It
can
it
imagine.
it, it was the Holy Spirit of God holding me up and having me to walk through.
Right.
And one of the things, you know, like I said, you wonder as a parent, you wonder how you've raised your children as much as my children were getting older. My oldest one had just graduated college, and my middle one, she was a junior in college when she got sick, and then my
Mm-hmm.
youngest one was a junior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So when you send your kids off, you wonder how you raise them. You know how you um, make example for them, and always tell them to do the right thing. Always treat people like you want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
But when they go off and they're not around you, you don't know what they're doing.
Could
And
be doing.
yeah, and so in through this whole ordeal, God showed me so many things on parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that you
with
should
both of
feel
my
great.
girls being tested, we were waiting on the test to come back, and my oldest daughter told me, um, if we're both 100% matched, I want to be the one to give my stem cell to Amber, because Taylor, which is my youngest one, had just came off of surgery 6 months before that of tearing her ACL,
Mm.
and she didn't want her to go back under back into this process again.
Right, right.
And as she said this, I'm crying and boohooing, and she's like, "Mom, why are you crying?" And I said, "You just don't know the gift that you just gave me,"
Mm.
because I knew it was from God.
Right, right.
Because I had been saying, God, I don't know how I've raised my children, but bringing us through this ordeal, even with my girls growing up, I would always say, you have three girls and they have their best friends and they want to go and support their friends at sports events or school events. And I would always say, no, you are going to your sister's event because she's your sister.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care where your sister is at. When she's older and she needs you, you get on the plane and you get to your sister. those are the things that I would always say to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And for God to do this situation that going
Mm-hmm.
as that my daughters were listening, even though they didn't have a choice but to listen, but they actually are
They took
walking
heed to it, which was great.
into yes, yes. So that was a moment that I boohooed like a baby.
Yeah,
So
sounds like a mixture of some joyful tears in there.
oh
Sounds
yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah,
no
yeah.
doubt, no doubt.
And
That's
and and,
that's a
and
blessing.
so Mr. Gray, so it goes back to that saying where people take well, sometimes God will take you through some things for other people
Mm-hmm.
and other situations, but he revealed himself to me in so many different ways through this whole process of be still and know that I am God. So I was at a peace with this whole process because no matter how it turned out, it was all in God's hands.
Right.
I'm grateful that it turned out the way it did.
I'm sure you are, and that's part of that process when you can, like you say, take it there and leave it, and
Hmm.
relieve yourself of it because you can't control the outcome. That's the best route to be able to go. Some people can't get there, and
Hmm.
so getting there, that's a great thing in itself. So just know
Yes,
you're among the blessed,
hey, highly
and I know you
favored.
know. Yeah.
Blessings.
So
That's every time I post something, it's about a blessing. My
yeah.
girls say, "Mom, do you know any other son?" I said, "It's a blessing."
Yeah, because you live in that blessing, and
I
that's a
am.
great thing.
God, I mean, God is opening up some doors. He is opening up so many doors. As I said to the doctor that day, that morning,
Hmm.
God is going to open doors and that we can't even imagine. And He is opening up doors in my life that I I can't even I didn't even think about. I didn't fathom,
Yeah,
and
well,
I am
obviously
so
you're
grateful. But
deserving.
I know it. Yeah. Well,
I mean,
God is good.
this is a great topic, subject, and episode, and I'm excited now. But your other episodes you have coming, I'm excited in a different way. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because this here is so big and personal and linked to lives in so many ways of dealing with health. And we definitely need to do better with our health. Our mindset is a big part of it. I heard Ms. Edwards say so many times a lot of black men don't go to the hospital until it's like they almost on their deathbed almost. And
Mm,
that's a mindset we definitely need to change and
right.
get a routine. I had a lady friend one time that I used to work with, and she's passed now. And she didn't even know she was a diabetic until she
Wow.
went to the eye doctor to check for some glasses, and the eye doctor is the one that saw it. So what that tells me is that she was not a person that got annual health checkups
Right.
because they're definitely going to check that. When you get a physical every year, they're going to check for diabetes, your liver, kidneys, stuff like that. So that let
Right.
me know she hadn't been getting physicals because the eye doctor had to let her know she had diabetes because it affected her eyesight so badly. Yeah.
Right. Oh wow.
So those checkups can make a world of difference.
They can.
Hmm.
They truly seeing your doctor on a regular basis do make a tremendous difference.
At least
And
annually.
yeah, and
Yeah.
if you're a young person and something is just not right, because a lot of times you think, oh, it'll pass. When you're
Yes.
young,
Hmm.
it'll pass, and that's what it was for my daughter. I kept sending her to the campus doctor, and he kept giving her allergy medicine, and I'm like,
Hmm.
that's not working.
Right. Right.
It's not working. But this went on for over 8 months.
That's a long time.
We just thinking, but when she come home, she would be fine. So as I said, I just thought it was her being on the borderline of Oklahoma
Yeah, because this
and
allergy
and,
thing
and
here.
Texas. Because
Right.
in Oklahoma, like I said, I'm from Oklahoma. So we start taking allergy medicine 3 days before we go to Oklahoma because the pollen count is so high
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's what we thought it was. So to find out it's just she needed a stem cell transplant. Like, and then to find out, well, what is a stem cell transplant?
Right.
So
But to see how blessed you were to get it there just in the nick of time, that's blessing right there.
just in the nick of time, and
Yeah.
she could not walk, and I'm so blessed
Mm,
to her friends in Wichita Falls, um, in her the apartment complex that she was in. It was all students, and she was on the second floor, and one of the football players came and carried her down the stairs to the car.
mm.
So when I got there to Wichita Falls, uh, there was maybe six football players there that was, uh, just trying to make sure she was okay, and waiting
Mhm.
to hear
Right.
what was going on with her
Mhm.
friends. And as we sat in the hospital, we were there for 3 days, um, and just the student body that came through to check on my daughter, to pray with my daughter, and
Mhm.
it
Quite an
was very
experience, I'm sure, no doubt. Quite
it
an
was
experience.
very touching, as I would walk out and call my friends, and because I had my prayer warriors. I am grateful
I bet
to
you
my
did.
prayer warriors. Hey, I call my church and say, look, this is what's going on. This is
Hmm.
what I need, and
Yeah.
and my family wanted for nothing. I mean,
Hmm.
food. We wasn't here, but we had food at our home, and just the prayer warriors. They really came out. She got so many get well cards, and even
Hmm.
the youth at our churches and different
Hmm.
churches found out what was going on with her, and they made homemade. The children in children's church made so many cards,
Hmm.
and just said how much they love her, and they wanted, and some of them they didn't even know who she was, but they just knew she was a child of God. so it was very touching, very emotional. So
Hmm.
um, and as we do the other segments, we'll touch on some of those things of my why. If you
Sure.
go on my website, it'll say my JacquelineLShaw.com. It'll
Mhm.
say up under be the my why I do the things that I do, and
Mm.
it's because of the community and because of my girls. So
That is so interesting you said that because I have a very good friend, Eric Johnson. He's author of a book, The Switch Within. As a matter of fact, he does a monthly show, and his is today. And he had an episode talking about what is your why. And you
uh-huh.
just hit that on like one of his shows. And the one he's doing today is about the power of fear. So that's gonna be interesting. Yeah,
Yes.
and he's the guy that got me set up in doing podcasts. And
Oh wow.
he's the oldest mentee that I have. He's like 47 or 48, I think 48. And I met him when
Okay.
he was 15 years old. And he's
Wow.
doing so great right now. Yeah. In every
Yes.
aspect of his life. Family, husband, father, grandfather even. So
Wow.
it's just great to see that. So yeah,
That's a
when you
blessing.
made it, yeah, when you spoke of that, because you said your daughters are your why.
That
I understand that.
they are my why.
That's what's up.
Yes.
Yeah. So I tell you, I'm looking forward to next week because I know you're bringing some more things to the table. I don't know if you want to say a little bit or not because it's on the flyer, but I loved what y'all did over there and then with the Women of Colors
Yes.
organization. And I'm so excited about that as well as this, just in a different way of excitement. It's like a growth process for me because I'm so pro-black, but people need to know, and some black people really don't even realize it. Pro-black doesn't mean anti anybody else. You see,
Right.
and that's what we all need to realize. But I'm so into us being able to do for us and being about us collectively as a people.
Yes.
But for your next episode on the collaboration with others, that's a great thing. But it makes me think of different moments like Fred Hampton out of Chicago, if you remember him, leader of the Black Panthers in that city. And there were moments, because see, this brother was actually talking about when he said power to the people, he was talking about all the people need
All
power for their people. He was
yes.
talking about black people, Caucasian people that are the downtrodden, Latinos, and everyone else. And yes, we can have a coalition when we get there. You got to first do so much for yourself and your own. And a
Right.
lot of people probably don't know this. That's part of what got Fred Hampton murdered so quickly, so young, at the age of 21, by the FBI, Chicago police. He was in the midst of uniting the poor Latinos and poor Caucasians with the poor blacks. That's when they said, we got to get him now. And they did that. So, which you know what you did and what's going to happen on the next episode, but I'm excited about it because I've had experiences with Latinos. Most of them good. My most recent one was bad, but so many good ones. I'm dwelling on the good. I'm an optimistic person. And one thing about it, no people are monolithic. You have the good, bad, and the ugly among every people. That's just truth.
That is true.
That's true.
That is true. It's kind of it's like being in the church. Just because you're in church doesn't mean everybody's a Christian.
That's where a lot of predators prey.
Yeah,
A different kind of prey, right?
yeah, but yeah, so again, I am very blessed and I'm honored to be on your show. I look forward to next week when same time when we talk about our organization empowering women of color of North Texas.
Oh yeah.
We are. I am blessed to be in a group of 8 phenomenal women that I sit on the board with in this organization, and each one of these ladies are a powerhouse all by themselves.
I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah, and when we come together, we can move mountains, and we have moved some mountains, and I look forward to telling you about those mountains next week.
Yes, ma'am. And the viewers better come back because it's going to be such a treat.
It is. It is.
Thank you so much for coming and being a part of this episode of the Plight and Struggle of Black People in America.
Thank you.
You have a great day, okay?
Okay. Be blessed.
Thank you so much. Thank you. My beloved Black people. As you have seen, it was a great episode, and it's going to be another great episode. Next 2 weeks, we're going to have Miss Shaw as our guest. This is unfounded. We've never had a guest that created a series. I'm loving it so much, and that's a great thing. So those that are viewing, please share, subscribe, and like. And until the next show, have a great life.